In the far future, animals evolved into more intelligent and stronger creatures known as animal men and live alongside humans in peace. However, a group of animal men were experimented on and turned into cross animal men, hybrid animal men with traits of two random animals. Calling themselves the Zooligans, the cross animal men decided to get revenge on the humans by wiping all of them out and creating a world only for animal men. Thankfully, there is a group of animal men called the Cosmo Keepers who fight to protect the galaxy's peace and have vowed to stop the Zooligans in order to save the world and mankind. In this game, you play as Blender, a dog animal man, and the leader of the Cosmo Keepers. He fights by spinning his long ears at his foes, and has creatures called Mini Bros by his side as well, who he finds by traveling around the galaxy on his journey to stop the Zooligans. This synopsis of the game was written by me, relying on my memory of the game and a few Google searches of random sites to help jog my memory of this game's plot. It isn't perfect because this game is pretty old and is pretty vague with its plot. I hope I did a good job explaining the plot regardless. Now, what is this game exactly, you ask? Well, instead of telling you, why don't I just show you? Yes, the LP I've wanting to LP for a while is Blender Bros. Again. In case you didn't know, I actually LP'd this game in the past. But I don't really like the way I did it, so I felt like someday I wanted to LP it again. And today is the day I finally do that. I think I mentioned before in the past that I wanted to actually do this after Zelda, but I wasn't ready for it yet. So I did Mario first. The reason I say wasn't ready is because the way I want to do this LP is different than before. Last time, because this game is like not very like well known and not that much is known about it, I wanted to explain stuff about the game while playing it. But since there's so much to explain about the game and it's so short, I pretty much spent the whole game just explaining things the whole time, and I felt like that didn't really make the game as fun for me, especially since I don't really like explaining things that much. So this time, I decided to make an episode dedicated to just explaining things, so I can play the rest without pretty much having to explain anything, so I can just play the game the way I want to. And that's why this episode is actually called Episode 0. Well, at least I'm assuming it's going to be called 0. I hope it is, or I'm going to look kind of stupid if it's not. This episode will pretty much just be a guide of this game. And I don't know if you might have noticed, because there's so much to explain, I actually wrote like a big script for this video because I knew if I didn't make one, I would definitely not be able to explain things properly. You can tell like this part right now is not scripted. You could tell I'm like pausing and stuff trying to talk right now. And normally I don't like making scripts because I don't like the way I sound kind of like monotone and stuff while reading it, but I know if I didn't make one, this video probably even worse if I didn't do it, so at certain parts I'm probably going to go off script to mention things, because it mostly wrote it as a guide to help me explain things, so, but I think for the most part I'm going to be reading it verbatim, so Just mentioning that in case you're wondering why if I sound so weird, like weirder than I normally do. So at this point, it's pretty much me script only. So yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, I probably shouldn't have to explain this, but this is gonna be a guide of pretty much the whole game. As much I'm gonna explain as much as I possibly can. So as you can imagine, there's gonna be a bunch of spoilery things I'm going to mention about the game. Not that I think it's that big of a deal for a game like this, but still, warning you just in case you didn't realize that before going into this video. So, if you don't care, let's move on then. Hello, I'm CS-Masyet, and this is the video version of my guide of this game. Yeah, I'm planning on putting up the written version of this guide on my site somewhere at some point, because I wrote so much I feel like it'd be kind of a waste to just keep this as notes. Blunder Bros is a game I loved as a child, and is still very dear to my heart today. I've noticed that this game barely has any guides, and has barely any helpful information about it at all, so that's why I decided to make this guide. It seems as though the few people who have made guides of this game have only recently played the game, and as such don't go into much detail about the game due to lack of knowledge. However, as I've had this game since childhood, yes, I still own my copy of the game, and spent a lot of time playing it, I know a lot about this game, a lot more than everyone else seems to. Upset that a more thorough guide was never created of this game, I decided to create one myself. So I've decided to share my knowledge of this game in hopes everyone can enjoy this game to its fullest potential, despite this game's vagueness and fairly badly translated text. This video is gonna be a long one, I just know it. Anyways, Part 1. Title screen and main menu. New game, load game, multiplayer. Hey, I said I was going to be thorough, I wasn't joking. In fact, this will probably give you a good idea of just how thorough and how much work I've put into making this guide. New game, create one of 2 save files. Saves over old file if there is one. Load game. Continue or load. There are checkpoints that'll appear in some levels that you can touch. By reloading the game and picking the continue option, you can start from the last checkpoint you reached in the game. This continue save is separate from your regular saves, so the only way to delete it is to touch another checkpoint. As such, it functions like a quick save. The load option is the one you want to pick to load one of your saves normally. You can delete or copy your saves in this menu as well. Multiplayer. Play minigames with friends in this mode. I have no idea if you get anything for doing this, because I've never done it before. Part 2, Cosmo Heaven menu. Clear time. Shop. Final stage. Save. Select stage. Minigame room. Mini Bros room. Pretty much the Cosmo Keepers is main base. There are a couple of interesting things you can do here. Clear time. Shows your time records in all of the levels you've played. Shop. Buy music discs here. They're needed to evolve certain mini bros. They each cost 10 bones, which are very common currency scattered throughout almost every level. The music you can buy here are rock, classic, and reggae. Final stage. This is a secret for now. Save. Save your progress in one of 2 save files. Other than the continue checkpoint option mentioned earlier, there is no other way to save, so don't forget to come here to do it, although I guess you can use save states as well. You can load your save progress by clicking load game, then load in the main menu. Select stage. Lets you leave Cosmo Heaven to select another world to explore. Clearing worlds will open up more worlds to travel to. Beating these worlds is the main objective of the game, obviously. Minigame room. Lets you play up to 3 minigames with 3 CPU players. Winning these games can earn you gems. For first place, 5 gems. Second place, 4 gems. Third place, 2 gems. Fourth place, no gems. Getting 50 gems will earn you an extra heart, up to 7 more. While 10 hearts is max, you can still earn gems after this, but once reaching 50 again, it will stay at 50 and not go any higher. Yes, I've confirmed this for myself, and no, I will not be showing that in this video because that would take way too long to do. If getting more hearts this way seems like a pain, don't worry, because there is actually a much easier way to get more, which I'll explain later. Regardless, since I happen to be in the minigame room, how about I show off the minigames, since I probably won't be doing it in my main episodes of my LP. They're not very long, so it shouldn't take too long. This is the first one. It's the hardest one. I will be replaying it because I was stupid. Probably won't be making it to the end, but I want to get at least pretty far, and you can probably tell at this point that this part of the video is not scripted, obviously. Yes, I did not script myself to keep messing up. I swear I'm good at this game. Yeah, I think you get the point of this game. Let's move on to another one. Flag race. A lot less, less bullshitty minigame. This is probably arguably the fastest way to get gems if you really want to get them. Easiest and fastest way. Although this one isn't actually my favorite. The last one is, which I'll show off after I play this one. See, it's really fast. And shut up, watch. Damn, I lost. Oh shit. Oh well, whatever. This one's my favorite one. Cosmo Ride Race. As mentioned before, you can technically play this with other people, but I've never, as mentioned before, I've never actually done it before, because I've fortunately never had anyone to play this game with, and didn't know anyone else with this game besides myself. These mini games are not very long, especially the first one, because I keep dying at the very beginning. So yeah, that was all the mini games. On to explaining more things now. Back to script me. Okay, now that I've finished showing off the minigames, I'll show you the last room in the Cosmo Heaven base, the Mini Bros room. This allows you to check, evolve, or trade away any of the Mini Bros you've collected during the game. I assume their name comes from a combination of Pokemon and Mario Bros. The Pokemon part makes sense, but I've never understood the latter part. I'll explain more about what the Mini Bros are later. The trade option can only be done by connecting with another player. Unfortunately, I've never had a friend to play this game with, so I don't actually know all that much about the trade mode. But personally, I think this option is kind of pointless anyways, as there aren't even that many Mini Bros, and this game isn't even very long. Maybe it's to make the game more similar to Pokemon? Part 3. World and Area Select. Choose a world to explore. Picking Cosmo Heaven will send you back to the Cosmo Heaven menu, but picking any other world will give you the option of exploring up to 4 areas. Shell Tile is an exception, and only has 1 area. The 4th area is always a boss fight of some sort instead of an explorable area. Once you pick an area, you're given the option of what Mini Bros to bring with you. You can only bring 1. Before confirming which one to bring, you're given a description of what the Mini Bros does. Oh, by the way, if you want to skip through text faster at any point during this game, you can just press the B button. Anyways, once you've made your choice, you'll enter the area you've selected. If you want, you can also choose to not bring any mini-bros with you at all. But the only good thing you'll ever get out of this is that any new mini-bros you find will automatically be with you this way. A couple of areas give you the option of switching mini-bros during the level, especially late in the game, so I don't think doing this is really worth it. That being said, there are some areas where you may not be able to bring any with you even if you want to. Part 4, Blender's Controls and Moves. Blender has a few interesting things he can do, but first let's get the more simpler, obvious stuff out of the way. Use the D-pad for movement, and A to jump. Press B to perform your normal spinning attack, which involves Blender spinning around like, well, Blender. Lol, get it? Press Start to open up the pause menu. Here you can either exit the level, or check what your mini-bro's ability is, if you have one. Press and hold L to use your Search Ears ability. The blue arrows point towards the stage's goal, while the red arrows point towards the new mini-bros. If there aren't any new mini-bros in the stage, the red arrow won't appear, obviously. Press the R button to perform an action with the mini-bros you brought with you into the stage, if you have one with you that requires it to use. To my knowledge, the select button doesn't do anything while controlling Blender, or at all in the game for that matter. Hold down on the D-pad to crouch. Hold the B button until Blender starts to glow blue, then let go of B to unleash blue energy waves horizontally in both directions. Keep in mind that letting go of your charge while flying or swimming will just waste it. You can still charge it while performing either action though, for some reason. While airborne from jumping, not flying, press down on the D-pad and Blender will flip upside down. If you keep him flipped by holding down, he will land on his ears and will use them as a spring to jump higher. You can use this to get to high places or to avoid some enemy's attacks. If you press B while airborne instead, Blender will perform a slower spinning attack, which you can use to help you descend more slowly if you constantly tap the button. If you press B while Blender is flipped around, however, so while holding down, you can do a fast drilling attack. You'll fall down faster this way, but this way you can also safely land on top of most enemies, as it'll take most of them out. If you see any long vertical bars, you can grab onto them by jumping into them, and you can move up and down them with the D-pad. You can get off of them by jumping off of them with A. By the way, unlike with flying and swimming, you can actually perform charge attacks while climbing something. Speaking of flying, you can fly around for a little while if Blender picks up a wing symbol. Move around by pressing left and right on the D-pad and constantly tap A to fly up and reach high areas. Here I'll also talk about Blender's controls while driving, as they're quite different from his normal controls. Move left and right on the D-pad to turn, up and down do nothing, and hold A to move forward. Let go of A, or hold B to slow down or brake. Press L to perform Blender's typical spinning attack. As far as I know, this has no practical use while driving, but it's still something you can do, so I thought I'd still mention it. Press R to jump, which you can use to avoid some obstacles. Keep in mind that the L and R buttons I mentioned only work in the main game. L and R do nothing in the Cosmo Ride minigame, not that they'd be useful for anything anyway. Part 5, Area and Area Object Info. Besides mini-bros, there are a couple of collectibles and other stuff about every area that I'd like to talk about. Yeah, I know you're probably dying to hear about the mini-bros by now, but don't worry, I'll talk about them later, I promise. Anyways, by far the most common collectibles are bones, which you'll find by defeating enemies, or find simply scattered around everywhere. As mentioned before, you need them to buy music discs to evolve certain mini-bros. You can carry up to 99 bones at once, which is honestly a weird max amount considering how much the discs cost, but whatever. And no, collecting bones doesn't have any other benefit, not even gaining extra lives or something like that. Hot dogs are what Blender eats to recover hearts in this game. The small ones restore 1 heart, and the big ones restore all of your hearts. There is also a special yellow golden hot dog, found only in First Heaven's second area. You can find it near the end of the area atop a fairly high platform that requires Bioyo to reach. Picking this up will fill your hearts, and will give you an extra heart as well. This will respawn every time you re-enter the level, so you can keep coming back to get as many extra hearts as you want, up to 7 extra ones. Yes, this is the easier method of getting extra hearts that I mentioned before. 10 hearts is the maximum amount of hearts that Blender can ever have. The golden hot dogs will respawn even after you get max hearts, but picking them up won't do anything anymore, except heal health. The Cosmo Heaven symbols you see floating in almost every area are the checkpoints I mentioned earlier. As I said previously, you can select the continue option from the main menu to start the game from this point. It'll also save any progress, including bones and mini bros collected, when touching the checkpoints, so be careful when selecting this option. In case you're wondering, I never feel the need to pick this option, but you can if you want. The small Blender's face symbols are extra lives you can collect. This is the only way to get more lives, and they aren't as numerous as you'd think, so be careful. By the way, if you get a game over, you'll lose all the bones you've collected. It's not that big of a deal since they're really easy to find, but if you're afraid you'll game over soon and want to save your bones, spend them on music discs first, as you won't lose those after game overing. The square pads with circling yellow and blue arrows is a Mini Bros switching pad. This is what you can use to change your Mini Bros during a level. This will also recharge the abilities of Mini Bros with limited use abilities. This is, of course, a very useful thing to keep an eye out for when exploring pretty much any area of the game. There are multiple switches scattered throughout the game, which have a variety of different effects depending on the area you're in. If a blockade is blocking your path, it most likely means you need to press on a switch to get by it. The switch won't always be near what the thing it affects, and sometimes may need to be hit by a red orb to hit it. Red orbs are those things that kind of look like eyeballs and can be picked up by pressing B. You can throw it in front of you by simply hitting B again. You can even use it while jumping. Or you can throw it into the background area by holding up on the D-pad first to hit enemies or switches. There are also a few other objects that you can interact with, like the shoe-looking symbol, which lets you charge at things at high speeds for a limited time, also makes you mostly invincible as well, and the wing-looking symbol, which allows Blender to fly around for a limited time, the latter of which I already mentioned previously. I probably missed some stuff, but I'm sure I at least covered the important things. I'll save the rest for my playthrough of the game. Now there's one last part I want to talk about, which is, of course, the Mini Bros, which is arguably the most interesting thing about this game. And as much as I don't want to do this, I'm actually going to make a separate video just talking about the Mini Bros. Yeah, I originally wanted to do this all in one video, but I don't think that's going to be possible anymore. Like, for one, including this part, I've recorded 34 parts so far, and I really want to make sure these videos, like, go over well, since I've worked so hard on them. Or on this one, at least. And oh boy, that makes 35 parts since I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, I'm starting to, I've been recording this for quite a while, and I have no idea how long I've been doing this for so far, and I'm starting to get tired as well, and I feel like that would, like, impact me explaining things. And I wanted to be able to, like, explain things well, and I probably won't be able to do it for much longer. Also, the Mini Bros part is by far the longest one. It's like half of the word pad document, I think, actually. That's how long it is. So it even might be longer than this video will be. So I think it deserves to be its own video regardless, so I hope this part so far was helpful, and I hope the next part I explain will be helpful as well, so yeah, bye, I guess.